everybody that.
Was there anyone on the left defending Kermit Gosnell, mister?
Right.
Everyone said he should deserve to go to jail.
Absolutely.
No one defended him.
Everybody on the left said the exact same thing.
Hey, mister, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you celebrate Christmas?
I wouldn't call myself religious. I wouldn't call myself a Christian, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus. If we lived the way, I don't think he was divine. I think he was another man, but he taught the right way to go.
It was a simple
I
question.
agree with you. But you disagree with Jesus about the death penalty, right? I mean, you know, Jesus stopped an execution and said only people who've never sinned have a right to kill other people.
Oh, that's what he says. He who sins throw the first stone. I understand that.
But you're disagreeing with that because you're saying, have you ever sinned in your life?
Of course I have.
So how can you agree with Jesus and then support execution?
Because I believe when you have a mad dog, you destroy it. Well, when you have a mad human, what would you have done with Adolf Hitler?
Listen, and I'm with you. Go ahead. You can believe that all you want. I'm just saying that's an area where you don't agree with Jesus. You don't believe in redemption. You know, we used to call prisons penitentiaries. I don't think murderers should be allowed out. I think if you kill someone, you got to stay locked up, deprived of your freedom as long as that victim remains dead. I'm just pointing out the fact that for those who claim to follow Jesus, he was pretty specific on this, and most of our allies don't do this anymore, and it doesn't save us money. It only satisfies revenge, and it's not a deterrent.
You know,
so go ahead and support it all you want.
We could talk about the Europeans all we want. But they're the most barbaric people in the world because that's where all the wars start.
Oh, listen, Iran loves the death penalty.
We could talk about France, we could talk about Germany, we could talk about all, but that's where all the wars start, with the civilized Europeans. And I don't want to become Europe.
You know, they don't have the death penalty. Iraq executed Saddam Hussein. Are we like Iraq?
Sharia law.
Oh, Sharia law.
Sharia law.
Okay, all right.
All right. Oh, heavens, we have to... We have to break. Okay. You know, you best bring it if you're going up.
Him before we could call the Bush family as witnesses for the defense.
Exactly.
You best bring it when the ecclesiastical mook is up in here. All right. 46 minutes after the hour. Back with more Fridays with People Saying on the Stephanie Miller Show. Yeah. Okay. It is the Stephanie Miller Show. 50 minutes after the hour. Comedian Dean Obadala at the top of the hour has a new piece. Obama will weaponize comedy at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yes.
Do you know who my comedy weapon is? John Fugelsang. He's my nuke. He's my comedy nuke.
Yeah. Stephen the Nukes.
Stephen the Nukes.
I think I'm going to be on MSNBC's White House Correspondents' Dinner pre-show tomorrow afternoon. So if you're hanging out and ignoring the nice weather and being inside with the TV, please tune in to watch me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would love that. By the way, speaking of which, because I just weaponized you on that last guy, that anyone that just calls to talk religion with John Fugelsang, it's always a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Well, he didn't call it talk religion. You know what? He didn't call it talk religion, and in fairness, but, you know, it's like, I'm not going to tell people don't support the death penalty. It's a very powerful thing, and people really have this strong desire for revenge. I'm just one of those Americans who knows revenge doesn't work, and it doesn't bring a dead person back, and it doesn't improve our humanity as a society.
And I keep saying the same thing you just said, John. I think life in prison is worse. I don't see why people think that, you know, that's a better solution. But anyway.
Well, look, I mean, I know this guy did horrible things, and no one's disputing that this man tortured and killed this poor woman. But the fact is, we are supposed to be better than they.
Yeah.
We're supposed to not be the evil murderers.
No, I said that. Yes, I heard, you know, of course, a right-wing talk show was saying, so what? He suffered. She suffered. And right, but that's the point of society. We're supposed to be better than that. Yeah.
You know, it's like,
it makes you know better than him.
Or are you just going to call yourself the good guys?
Yeah. By the way,
we did learn that the Europeans start all the wars.
Your pans.
Your pans
start all the wars.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic.
Not my pans. Your pans start the wars.
George W. Bush would be surprised to hear that.
Started the American Civil War. You know, that was we lost, what, 500 million people in the Civil War? Did Japan start that one?
That one didn't count.
Germany?
That one didn't count. There were no Europeans.
But I saved this piece for you, John. I don't know if you saw it, Nicholas Kristof last Sunday, but it reminded me so much of you. Religion for 1,000, Alex. He writes, secular Americans are largely ignorant about religion, but in surveys, religious Americans turn out to be scarcely more knowledgeable. Americans are both deeply religious and profoundly ignorant about religion, wrote the The author, one of the most religious countries on earth is also a nation of religious illiterates. And we learn that every week when someone calls to talk to John. Nearly 2/3 of Americans say they believe the Bible holds the answer to all or most of life's basic questions, yet 1/3 know that Jesus delivered the Sermon on the Mount, and 10% think that Joan of Arc was Noah's wife.
Wow. Wow.
Many Americans know even less about other faiths, from Islam to Hinduism. And then, we were talking about the guy that killed the Sikh after 9/11 because he was wearing a turban.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Morons.
Yeah. And John, you talk about that all the time, people misquoting the Bible or using it for, to mean something that it didn't mean, right?
Well, everyone of every religion, and again, all my atheist friends, what they hate about religion is how it's all buffet. People pick and choose the parts of their holy books they want to follow. And that's true. But for every right-wing Christian who wants to use the Bible to justify selfishness or exclusion or looking down on gay people or to justify war and violence, you'll find ways to use the Bible to justify acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, and love. And this is the struggle with Islam. It's the struggle with every religion right now. The people who are picking and choosing the parts for love versus the people who are picking and choosing the parts for meanness.
Yep.
By the way, Joan Van Ark was Noah's wife.
That's
Joan
right.
Van Ark
Thank
was,
you,
in fact,
Jim.
Noah's wife.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
And it was
for that
really mean that she didn't get a part in the movie.
Peg in Illinois, you're on with John. Hi, Peg.
Hi, Steph, John. I think I remember that Michael Dukakis was against the death penalty, and they trotted out that meme, like, what if Kitty was raped and all this, these horrible...
Right. In the debate, I believe it was Sam Donaldson who asked, and Dukakis was standing there like a deer in the headlights with nothing.
Yeah.
Bernie, what's his name?
Clinton triangulating after that because of that very setup.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'll never see a Democratic presidential nominee who's completely opposed to the death penalty again.
Yeah, and I do feel my mother was a lifelong hardcore Catholic, and I was the one that had to bring to her attention that the Catholics are against the death penalty. They really
every bit as much. The Pope's every bit as much against the death penalty as against abortion. That's true. Yeah. The difference is abortion are private individuals doing it, and the death penalty is the state and the government doing it with taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we were saying, wasn't it, Jim, the Saturday Night Live sketch? Remember they did a parody of it, and they kept making more and more horrible things happen to Kitty Dukakis to see if they get a reaction from him. I mean, it's just, but
it was very funny. But you're
right. He didn't show the proper amount of blood. He didn't show the proper amount of bloodthirstiness for an American, right? Regarding the
you know what though? Here's the thing: Americans are decent people, and I will tell you. Of the support for the death penalty, but I also understand that if you showed executions on live TV, you'd have 75% of the population opposed to it within a year.
Yep. John, someone's trying to call you to tell you you're on the Stephanie Miller Show.
They will be put to death.
Giggle, giggle, giggle.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Jerome in Illinois, you're on with John. Hello, Jerome.
Good morning, Stephanie and crew.
Good morning.
Hey, I love your show. I believe in 99% of all what you say. I'm a union member.
Well, then you're only wrong 1% of the time.
Well, that point is nobody agrees with everybody all the time.
That's right. All right, go ahead.
Okay. With that being the case, it's like being a Christian, and in this case, I believe in capital punishment. I look at when Jesus talks about thou shalt not, kill, is really thou shalt not murder, because killing has always been sanctioned by government or officials.
That's not Jesus. That's the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Okay, when you look at Romans, the 13th chapter, obey your government, verses 1 through 5, it talks about...
That's not Jesus. That's Paul.
Okay, once again, you can't separate,